Hello everyone, it's Friday night and it is Weekender time once more. And on this week's show we take a dip in the Med as we visit the lovely island of Anthalonica with our Indie of the Week. Then we take to the stars to check out the news about the League of Votann and search for a new home for our fleets in Homeworld from Modiphius. We also have a great prize from store.ontabletop.com this week. If you want to be in a chance to win the Warhammer 40K kill team Into the Dark, then you need to be a subscriber to the channel, pop a comment below, and if you do all the other FNAR stuff on social media, that would be awesome as well. Otherwise, sit back and relax and see whether or not I can stop from fanboying out over Free League's new Dragonbane, because your weekend starts here. Hello everyone, we're back again to irritate your happiness on a Friday evening. So you're going to have a peaceful transition into the weekend. No such luck. We're here again. And I'm joined this week by the delightful Free, the delicious Ben, the delectable John.
Oh.
And
alliteration aside, what are you, Jared?
The rather dogged.
The dastardly Jerry.
Dastardly Jerry.
Dastardly would work as well. Dogged or depressed, I think both work too.
Oh, okay.
We've got a fairly jam-packed show to get through.
We really do.
There's been a lot of news. There's been eye-catching this week with a lot of stuff going on.
There is. And X company actually did it in a state where I can actually talk about it for the weekend. Oh my God.
Wow. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that was probably a mistake, and they'll be back
Probably was.
They'll be back on an even keel next time. It'll come out just like 2 hours after we finish filming.
More than likely.
Yeah.
Right. So we shall kick things off without further ado by pushing into the most important part, our Indie of the Week.
Ooh.
And this week, the Indie of the Week is Anthalonica Wargaming. Anthalonica. So Ben aimed me at this one, although I was semi-aware of them already anyway.
Gary already had it somewhat in his sights.
Yeah. Like most things in life, I'm always on the cusp of annoying people. An Indie of the Week. This one has relatively big images, but for some unknown reason, they always crop whenever you embiggen them. So often you lose the top of people's heads. So you know what you gain in the big images, you lose in the top of people's heads. I'm just going to say that now. But it is a company that does a range of 15 and 28 mil modern miniatures.
Yeah,
a couple of ranges, Warfighter and the Thin Blue Line or Blue Light range. And these are for an alternative near future.
Yes.
However, they all work perfectly well for here and now. You're not planning on actually using them in the near futureness. And they've got a bit of a spectacular sale on at the moment. Spectacular.
We arrived just in time.
Just in time. By grab Thor's hammer, fill your boots, kids. Fill your boots. So I think we'll kick things off with the blue light range, because I quite like this. This is again Anthalonica, but could also be used for modern in and around the
Cops
UK.
And robbers.
Cops and robbers, indeed. And there's some spanking stuff. The vast majority of these are metal. They do have, you can occasionally buy the resin masters, but once the resin masters are sold, they're gone for good. I think there's only a couple in there at the moment. But there is a deeply suspicious BMW. I'll just say that for a start. Yeah. It's printable. It's one of these digital fake things, like the kids do with their music, television, and their drugs. But it's quite good. You don't get 5 printable files. It is BMW X5.
It's a saving.
But it's very good because you can. I was going to say model it. You can print it in one of two ways. So you can either print your lovely Beamer, people carrier, Chelsea tractor, whatever you want to call it, for your tabletop for civilians, or it has the blues and twos on top if you want to give it the lovely squares up and down the side, the curding, and go nuts with it that way as well. So it's really nice in that respect.
You can use that on a lot of different stuff as well. Certainly, that can go anywhere modern, not particularly tied to anything in particular.
On the school run.
Exactly. On the school run, going shopping. X5 is there.
Yeah. But apart from the STL, then the rest of the range is metal. We will bring up the Gasman because he's quite cute. But we'll also have a look at some of the cups and rubbers as well as your civilians. As far as I remember, Anthalonica is based out of London, which explains why this guy's in a West Ham kit.
Oh.
It is what it is.
Yeah.
I was going to say the Biker Grove kids really let themselves go.
Poor PJ and Duncan.
Just your local hooligan, you know.
See, told you.
Now,
the head is very clearly on that image in the little tiny square, but when you bigulate the image, it disappears and you can't move it, so that's not my fault. I'm just saying. But yeah, civilians are always good for any game for objectives and stuff, and especially if you're playing something tabletop based. It's interesting to have them for various uses. Hostages, they're always good for hostages. Not enough hostages. Well, there isn't. I'm just saying. The Gasman is a charity figure. So gas is the initials of the gentleman who passed away. But you actually, a really nice thing that is on the website for all of them is you get a
ream of text.
A ream of text for all of the miniatures. So you know what they're for, where they fit in the world, and what you can do with them. So it explains things like the 1-2 combo of carpet slippers and slacks that apparently he enjoyed quite a lot. His shears for all his gardening needs, and his love of World War II flamethrowers for when you have to clear people off in a very pesky way. Also was a professor at, I think, Yorkshire University.
That's how the RNLI get people off a pier. They use a flamethrower.
It's easier than chasing them with a walrus. It's very difficult to get walruses to hop on the pier and then just charge down. Not impossible. But they've done a couple of charity figures. They did one for Ukraine as well, which is really cool. Very nice. So, I just like this sort of. It was a request from Graham that he'd be sort of immortalized and the figure would be characterized, and Anthalonica are sucking all the production costs on that one themselves. So if you buy it for a $5, all £5 English go straight to the RNLI. There's no sort of cutout for production. It's not one of these 10% of the profits go to blah blah blah. It's all and sundry there. So that's really nice touch. Even if you were unaware of Graham in your little neck of the woods, having a professor with a mortarboard and a flamethrower. I mean, why would you not? Why would you not?
No, absolutely. Taking it into his own hands. Yeah, sure.
It screams modern day Dad's Army. That's
oh yeah, that is a frightening thought. Have a look at our bank robbers.
Yeah, this was the stuff that really caught my attention because obviously, you know, you watch a bunch of shows on BBC and ITV and all that kind of stuff where you've got lots of cops fighting each other and, you know, taking down robbers in banks and all that stuff and someone being a grass.
Are you saying the Mitchells are involved in all bank robberies?
Yes, I am.
Potentially.
But I just saw these and thought it was a really neat way of kind of playing out something a little bit different, I thought. Mainly because I think a lot of the time you see stuff that's done for kind of like cops and robbers, and it's very American based.
Yeah.
And I thought it was really nice to have a collection that was more like, no, this is like bank robbers and cops and stuff in the UK kicking ass, taking names. So yeah.
I do like the bank robbers because they have the sort of tactical body armor that you would see in a computer game. You know, like 2-man army or some style of thing with their masks and their tactical body armor and just needing to be offed.
Skating knee pads.
Yeah. Well, you could see somebody from the bill having cobbled this together with stuff that they found in the production offices. You were a bank robber. Sure. Yes. Now go and face these fellows.
Oh,
This is the Anthalonica Independence Front. We'll get to Anthalonica in a little while.
Yeah.
But again, some more generic modern fighters that could fit equally well into... Oh, no heads. Could fit equally well into any sort of pulp game that you want to play, or indeed any sort of modern insurgency and counterinsurgency game.
When I saw those, I was thinking, because a lot of the time you'll see the kind of high tier operatives will normally be in civilian dress with then their body armor and stuff on top and things. So I thought those were pretty good. I mean, admittedly, the guy with the shotgun, he probably works on the farms a little bit. Probably not one of those high ranking war fighters, but
it's one of those things.
Yeah,
recruit along the way.
Yeah.
Or perhaps
he's the veteran that the main character goes to in the movie to remember everything they've learned.
Yes, very true. That is spot on.
the government's after me, boss. Type of thing. Government took my baby.
It's the shooter movie. You remember the shooter?
Yes. Oh yeah.
Shooter.
Oh yeah.
It's like, what was it? The guy in the grassy knoll was buried, 15 miles away. How do you know that? Still got the shovel.
Oh, classic. But again, with Blue Light, you also have special forces. So SBS / Delta, the people who do all the real work, while the SAS do all the photo opportunities. I think that's how that one breaks down.
Sure. If that, yeah, sure.
Pretty much. There was a long list of things attributed to the SAS that years later it came out was all been SBS operations. So, which was fine by them. Their motto is not by strength, but by guile. Or at least it was until about 5 years ago when they decided in this age of social media, they needed to be a bit more SAS proactive with their tweets and the like. So they changed their motto from not by strength, but by guile to strength and guile or something like that. They essentially changed their whole motto and premise of what the SBS was about. And I think they're worse for it. You're worse for it now. You're like a poor man's SAS, now SBS. That's what I'm saying. If you have any problems, then,
they already know where you live.
Yeah, my address is Games Workshop Belfast.
I love that guy's got is that a taser he's got as well? Yeah, just in case you need to subdue someone. Yeah.
So, well, it's not always all about the murder, death, kill. It's
not always lethal.
Yeah.
Get in and take your asset. Again, really nice sculpts.
Really good detail on the sculpts as well.
With the modern equipment on them as well. Should paint up an absolute treat.
One of the nice things that they said about the range is that you can kind of sort of chop and change things a little bit. I think it's the Warfighter range in particular has actually got the head options and stuff, which we'll see maybe. But
yeah, the Warfighter have head options. These tend to be sort of cast with the heads on, but because they're scaled the same, if you don't mind doing a bit of chopping and changing yourself,
you can play around with things.
Then those individual heads will go on. Here's some of the French, apparently, coming at you, a bit Riot Patrol-y.
That guy's got a really big match.
Yeah, it's a very big man.
I imagine they're probably worried about firemen. I don't know if you've seen the French firefighter protests.
Oh, right, yes.
But, it was particularly good. I
love the grey.
The French riot police came up to, break their picket line, and a couple of firefighters in full uniform with masks on and all the rest poured flammable liquid on themselves, set themselves on fire, and then charged the police lines.
Oh my god.
Punching away.
Wow.
That's hardcore.
That's they know how to do a protest.
And you can bet, because they're firefighters, they did a risk assessment before.
Absolutely.
You've got 10 minutes of punching before we're gonna have to put you out. 10 minutes is enough, my friend. Get the camembert on.
I really like those ones in the grey. I think they look very, very cool. If you want to play around with them, I think that's quite nice. Yeah.
They're cute little things.
Mm.
But we also have some Israeli Rescue Under Fire charity as well.
Some of your sort of SO19 chaps as well. It's kind of cool. Yeah.
And this is...
I've watched BBC television. I know what SO19 means.
Again, really nice modern figures if you're planning on playing sort of Spec Ops or Ultramodern or Delta 10 or any of those type of games. There's a lot of things that will fit into. But then you can also run them in Anthalonica itself, which we'll probably have a look at before we dive into Warfighter.
My only problem there is the guy that's kneeling.
Yes.
To me, with the coloration of the photo, looks like he's got a BFA attachment on his rifle.
That's what I was looking at. Yeah.
The blank firing adapter or whatever.
It's
I'm actually just here training. Everyone else is shooting live.
It might be exactly that. Yeah. Have to teach them somehow. And again, if you're playing those sort of Spectre narrative missions,
trying to get people out and stuff,
pull people out and things like that. The Rescue Under Fire is a lovely model, and again, another one for charity. There's a lot for charity.
It just seemed like a. How many sculptors are there for these guys? Is it just the one guy, or is it
There's quite a few actually? I think.
Yeah.
But,
the only one I keep seeing is Anton. I see him a lot. I don't know how many others there are.
I know Anton's done basically a lot of it, but then I think a few other people have stepped in as well. I can't remember who exactly, but
because it just really seems like they just really have fun with the sculpts.
Yeah, I think Anton is Flytrap Factory. I want to say, I may be wrong. Someone can correct me, but I think he's done
stuff. The comments will, don't we?
You are wrong immediately. I will comment now. Yeah. But yeah, getting ready to breach and clear. Very cool.
Civilian.
Oh, there's Ali J at the front.
Some more civilian.
All
civilian
the gold
groups.
chains.
I'll say they're scumbags. But they may have been. They may have been put out there to do riot testing on the place, so it's probably just another squad of police.
It might be.
Or army. I know they used to. I friends who used to be squaddies, and the Irish regiments often would get cast in riot gear, sort of, to be the looters and the robbers that the other forces then had to test themselves against. And they really enjoyed that a lot. It's like, if we put a lot of stuff in these wheelie bins and charge the lines, that'll break them open. Yeah, let's do that. And then there's some undercover police.
Yeah, you see what I mean? Like, I was talking about how, like, whenever you see a lot of these kind of like police miniatures or anything done in American things are always done as, say, based around the US and that kind of thing. Whereas here you've got kind of how that would look if you were doing, civilian dressed coppers with all their tactical gear on top of it and stuff. So
yeah, your undercover raid or whatever, where there's some guys closer to the action, and then the SWAT team moving in behind.
Nice.
You can guarantee that every scenario would be a drug raid where you'd smash down the door, realize there's only one guy in the house. He's big and fat, and he can't get out of bed, and he just goes, "All right, what are you doing?"
There are a substantial amount of them playing close support.
There's also the shameless. There's a shameless pair. Very, very good. Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, there's some of the more. This is some of the more recent stuff there. Sort of authorized firearms officers and stuff. Very cool.
Isn't it weird how they have to do that in England, John?
Yeah,
they have to call up a special guy to come along with an MP5. Our police are all walking around with them.
It's the Rick and Morty joke. It's the we're gonna punch you if you don't let us do it. I was like, okay, we'll let you do. Has anyone got a gun? Yeah, it's on the way.
You've even got a big red key.
Yeah.
Big red key. They just need the
persuader.
The persuader.
So the blue light miniatures, mostly UK based, civilians and military and police as well, constabulary. Anthalonica, I'll jump over to before we go into the warfighters bit, because I want to. I want to spend ages here. Anthalonica is a island all of its own. This is the setting for us, and it explains what's going on, how there was in 2030, which is where we are now, how there had been sort of like a rebellion uprising. You've got partisan fighters, which is where some of the sort of armed civilians come from, but then you've got the main government forces now buying in technology, and they're buying in old NATO stock, they're buying in stuff from Great Britain, they're buying in stuff from Israel, which is why you can have those figures. And occasionally you'll see in like the photo galleries where somebody's painted them up instead of painting them in standard Israeli pattern or the special ops and sort of the black. They paint them up in just a variety of sort of mercenary colors. But there's the sort of the history there for Anthalonica. There's a comprehensive breakdown of the units in the conflict with
very in depth, yeah.
their order of battle, the rank structure and patches. So when you're painting them up, you can get that as well. And then the weaponry and equipment that they buy in and where it goes to and who is using it, which is, shockingly in depth for a little island just off the coast of Egypt in the Med that doesn't technically exist. But I love it. I love it so much when you're doing a near future what if, or your own alternative take on modern combat, being able to go, this is where it is, this is what's happening, this is the lay of the land, and what people are going to be equipped with means you can jump in and put together forces for it and have a cohesive theme running throughout it, right down to the unit badges is just utterly insane. I love that attention to detail. You can even get your hands on maps of known bases in the area. So the AIF is the partisan force. It even breaks down all the major towns and cities within the area that you might need to be going to, with substantial civilian populations in them. There's even where the HQs live, where some of the units are actually based. And I think it might be at the very end, actually. It even has a breakdown of the hubs for, there we go, religious practice in the area.
Because of course you need to know that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're going to have
Because
to.
it all adds, because then that following pogroms and the like, the Jewish population has been decimated. So now there's like little tiny, the blue areas are sort of the main settlement areas where there's still Jewish settlers or Jewish inhabitants. So if you're basing your force then on that, you can have them in these specific places and tie all into the narrative of your game. Yellow is mostly mountains. Nobody lives there, I assume. No religion. Or it's
just
or a lot of
futuristic Bear Grylls.
a lot of YouTube atheists all live in the that's true. And then the topography of the region as well. So say you've got mountainous atheistic regions trying to get closer to God. Despite the fact he's not there. Topography with place markers. This little PDF
so in depth
of what Anthalonica looks like really adds so much to the world that they exist within. If you are going to be playing it, and then you are going to be pulling in the units from the range for it. Mm-hmm. So Anthalonica out of the way, we can have a wee look at who's lurking around in the warfighter range. So this is the more militaristic side of the conflict. So where you're going to get your private contractors or police officers with massive rifles.
Guys that just go there for fun.
Look at that.
Oh, that's awesome.
Everybody loves a ghillie suit.
You got to.
Especially the Scottish gamekeepers.
It's about the one thing I don't own.
Ghillie suit. Well, you don't have a ghillie suit.
Well, we know what to get you for Christmas.
Sort that out, John.
I don't know why they had such a large picture for only 2 models on the right-hand side. But yeah, that's really nice. The fact that
I think it's really well done. Yeah. I like to think that maybe that was just a regular miniature that was lying down the sniper rifle, and they went, well, how do we make this into a ghillie suit? Let's just layer green stuff over.
Yeah, let's do it. Yeah.
Fetch me all the Hessian strips in 28mm. This contractor's the worst contractor, for he apparently has a man bun.
It's got man bun.
Just saying.
The hipster contractor.
Gives him a target.
I'm here ironically.
But again, the mercenaries, that blend of, like you were saying earlier with some of the other pieces, the tactical equipment over the top of civilian clothing.
A bit civvy stuff. Yeah.
Looks really good.
Everyone went to their
He's
local
very
surplus
happy.
store before joining up.
Yeah.
Okay.
How happy he is. So happy.
It's one of the things that was quite neat about this is that they have sort of, forces that are dedicated to sort of NATO or the Israeli forces and all that kind of stuff, and Britain and all that kind of thing. But I really liked the mesh of different mercenary groups in there as well, that you could tailor to however you wanted to use them on the tabletop, obviously. But I just thought it was really nice because it means that you could put together some really interesting stories about that kind of stuff around the island, because, mercenaries will fight for the highest bidder, but then you've always got those stories of mercenaries who turn good and all that kind of stuff. So you can play around with the narrative if you want to and get a little bit of Hollywood, or you could just be like proper on the nose and be like, oh no, they'll just work for whoever pays them the most money. So
really nice sniper team.
It's a great rendition of multicam, and they're painted.
Yeah.
Well, I'm looking at it going, I still can't paint multicam.
You know what I really want to see as far as snipers go? You watch Generation Kill. I know you have, John.
Yeah.
Remember that bit where Rudy is taking out a couple of insurgents with
RPG team,
with the RPG, and he's acting as spotter, and he's practically lying on top with one arm around him, so he can be as close in to get the wind and yardage as possible. He's like a really tight little unit.
They're like shoulder to shoulder, and he's like patting him when he's like telling him he's on target and stuff, and like literally whispering the wind corrections and stuff, even though like the target's 400, 500 meters away.
Yeah. It was really nice, and I haven't seen anybody actually represent that in miniature form. So, I mean, we see a lot of sniper and spotter side by side, just lying doing their own thing, but actually specifically sculpting them.
The one being a little bit more proactive, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Proper breacher time. Breacher time. I don't know. Breacher time.
Does it creep in every so often, Ben?
It does, yeah.
My Brummy show.
Yeah, again, another charity figure. So that's the Ukraine one with Vitali. I think manually had to blow a bridge because the demolition charges were skew.
I think I briefly heard of that. I was in the first couple of weeks or something.
Yeah.
I think.
And again, beautiful figures. Long range reconnaissance patrol for Vietnam.
I just love the hand sculptedness of it all.
Yeah. I think it adds really nice element of character to everything you see. It's very cool. Yeah.
It doesn't need to be perfect because you've got so much character in the sculpt. These guys are straight out of Platoon.
Aren't they, though?
Just need the one on the knees.
Well, yeah. Elias with the hands in the air.
I was on subject of Vietnam. I was reading this week about how amazing the Anzacs were when it came to Vietnam. I didn't realize the Australians were so seriously badass.
The Australians have always been badass. I mean, this is what happens when you make a country out of criminals. They turn into pretty damn good soldiers.
That's true. Yeah.
Here's more of our Anthalonica Independence Front. I can't hear that and not think of the Teuton Popular Front, which will mean nothing to all of you because you're all children. But I know somebody old in the comments will be going,
yes,
Wolfie Smith. Oh, yeah. And another little set of them there. So these are the 28s. But there are also a set of 15s in the Warfighter range as well. Is that Justin? Why is Justin cycling his weapon? Oh, I can't see Justin's head.
No.
But it is.
That is him. Yeah.
It explains what happens to Justin whenever the beard is on full. And then I assume that's when he has to shave to stop himself from going completely Rambo.
I've just gone and become a mercenary again. Oh,
that's wonderful.
But we'll pop into the 15 mil.
Yeah.
Just to finish things off.
Tiny.
So, smaller set of figures, but then at 15 mil, you're not needing a ton of unique sculpts because the scale sort of kind of takes care of that itself. Again, good for Skirmish Sanguine. So that's the Royal Marines roster. I think there should be better pictures in the actual thingy thing. We'll have a wee look. Boop, boop, boop. Boop. I know this always confuses people whenever I open tons of windows. They get really annoyed. Somebody counted them one day when you've 27 windows open. All right, well done me. Well done me and well done my computer.
Means my computer can handle it. Yeah.
Some Navy SEAL.
Really nice for 15.
Yeah.
Wow, absolutely.
I like that they've added extra emphasis to the guns, so that they look slightly bigger than you'd expect. But I think it's really cool for kind of like immediately noticing what's what on the tabletop, which I think is quite nice.
They don't look fragile.
Yeah.
And I think with 15s as well, you have to go for that overblown proportion to get the character of the unit across as much as anything else.
Everyone remembers the big heads of the Flames of Void range. So.
Well, I was going to go the other way. I remember the accurately proportioned models that Plastic Soldier Company released for 15 mil World War II. In fact, I own quite a lot of them. And most of the purchasing power of the internet went, no, they look ridiculous with their tiny heads. And then when it was pointed out that they were accurately proportioned to what a human is, they went, we don't want that. We want the big head, big head, big head. So they actually ended up changing their entire line. So they no longer do human proportions and instead do a more caricatured version because people expect it in 15 mil. And they're right. An accurately portrayed human at 15 mil has a head the size of a pin. It's very difficult to get any sort of idea of character across on them. We have some.
You too can be waylaid by rocket launchers and have your helicopter shot down.
Yep. Don't worry. I'm sure Rudy is on a hill somewhere right now scoping them. But the Afghan warband, very nice.
It's a lot of detail in it, isn't it? 15.
Yeah.
And the Afghan police, so Skirmish Sanguine and Spec Ops. All right, deal for these. Yeah,
covers quite a lot of different games that deal in this period and sort of late 90s into early 2000s and all that kind of stuff as well. So,
15 mil SWAT and tactical armor.
You're either SWAT or you're not. Okay, I'm not. Okay.
I'm sure that's a reference to something from somewhere.
It's the film SWAT.
I'll tell you nothing. I grew up with films like Navy SEALs with tiger blood in it, and it was a whole other level of madness. But yeah, the 15 mil range, like I say, smaller,
I think it's really nice,
but really, really nice.
Yeah,
good level of stuff on it. Before we disappear from Anthalonica and its lovely shores, they do have a little customer gallery where some people have dropped in what they've been painting up. And you can see things like the 15 mils or the 28s and even little dioramas. I just really like this. I don't know what's going on where they've got full tactical gear on and then these two scumbags are sort of being stopped at the side of the road. I mean, things have gone bad somewhere. And I just imagine they're going, what's it to you, mister?
I ain't got anything, mate. That's just always been said.
I like to think that some situation has happened and then these two chaps are just having a conversation with them. They're probably talking about the football or something.
That makes sense. The amazing 9-0. Yeah. But yeah, so...
They just walked it in.
They really did. But yeah, so really nice to see people's interpretations of some of the miniatures, and the range itself is absolutely stonking and growing really all the time. But it's nice to see more of that, either ultra modern, if you want to call it ultra modern, or sort of near future, because there's so much potential there. And I know a lot of people got into gaming. Well, let me rephrase that. A lot of people got into modeling via historic models. So you pick up your Airfix Wellington bomber or whatever it happened to be. But there's obviously that potential there where people are constantly seeing things on their TVs these days. So it might be a good way of teaching a bit of the history of what's currently happening or been happening recently. And also then exploring modeling there as well. So yeah, really like Anthalonica Wargaming. Lovely stuff. Well done, Ben. You're a legend. You get to live again for another week. Live. Right, we shall take a quick swish, and when we come back, we'll be taking a look at what news has caught our eye over the last 7 days.
Coming to you from the center of Northwestern Europe. Covering board games, war games, card games, and all that you love. It's the news.
All right, we are back for the news, and we're going to be starting off with a host of outpourings from Games Workshop then, Ben. They've been novering all over the place.
They have novered, and they've novered hard. So the big first bit of news concerns the grimdark future of the 41st millennium. So we're going to be going there first. As you might have imagined, I've put these guys front and center.
Right.
So we're going to be talking about the Leagues of Votann, who got their full reveal. Of course we are. Yes, we are. Who got their full reveal at Nova. So they got a brand new trailer that showed off all of the different miniatures that are going to be coming to the tabletop. All of these aren't necessarily going to arrive in the first wave of releases, but they are going to be the core of what you're going to be getting when you hit the tabletop with the Leagues of Votann over the next 6 months or so. I went a little bit Jeremy Vine there. That was weird.
You do use that. You do use.
A lot of the stuff that we'd seen before popped up. So we saw some of the Chthonian berserkers there and stuff. But then we have the Einhyar as well here, rocking and kicking ass, the Iron Masters and that kind of stuff as well. It's a pretty nice trailer. I quite liked it, especially for seeing some of the artwork that was popping up as well. But yes, we actually got a look at some of the miniatures too. So if you skip away from this wonderful video, as nice as it is,
I will.
We got, and this is the miniature set that I'm not so fussed about, but this is the Chthonian Berserk Mole Grenade Launcher.
Sure.
So this is going to get added in alongside your Berserks on the tabletop. The idea is that it's a grenade launcher that you fire into the ground and then it burrows to a location and then explodes.
Like the old mole mortar that Scotch used to have.
Yes, like a mole mortar, yeah. And as you can see, you've got a Berserk there who's ready to fire some grenades, and then behind them is their Ironkin buddy who's carrying their axe for them.
He looks very friendly, though, doesn't he? He doesn't look menacing at all. He looks like quite a polite little thing back there.
Oh, gee, you've blown up another guy. Oh.
Let me hold that for you.
It's like the canteen hanging off the end of the...
Yeah. So that's one of their sort of pieces of mining kit that has been turned into something new. We also have the Brockier Iron Masters. So these are you couldn't have a dwarven force in space without engineers in the mix. This is one of the Iron Masters that will be fixing vehicles around the tabletop, kicking out and taking names with all sorts of experimental weapons, and is then joined by some of the Ironkin there that aren't quite as intelligent as some of their other fellows with the legs and shears, but instead these ones are floating sort of mechanical helpers and all sorts of different things. As you can see, going down the route of sort of playing around with the idea of mining equipment also being used on the battlefield and all that kind of thing as well. So they've all been sort of given rigs and cables and all sorts of different things. That guy's got a very good red extension cable, which is great. So
very handy. 100%.
But I quite like the look of the Ironkin. I think they're kind of nice. I like that they've got kind of that off Adeptus Mechanicus feel to them, which I think is quite cool. So they've sort of stepped away from the designs a little bit and things. Or, well, I suppose actually the Mechanicus have stepped away from the designs that the Squats probably came up with, which is probably the way it goes. And then you've got your Iron Master there at the front as well, with some kind of strange gun. Probably just a welding tool, just souped up.
So I was just looking at all of the optics on his hand. And all I can think of is one of those things the optician puts in and goes, number one or number two? Just as it rotates.
That's what he says as he's killing people. Number one, number two. We also got the Grimnir as well, which is as close as the Leagues of Votann get to psychers within their midst. They have kind of barriers set up within their sort of, technologically and spiritually, I suppose, that kind of protect them from the warp, which allows them to harness the psychic powers of the other side safely. A little bit like putting spells in runes in Warhammer Fantasy Battles.
Who would have thought
it?
Can I just say, I'm glad to see GW have not done foot on rock for once. This is rock on foot.
Yes.
Floated up to meet his foot.
Yeah.
I
But,
like him.
I think he's really cool. I love the kind of Odin theme going on there with the kind of one eye, the mechanical eye and stuff. Very nice.
Just getting
and the
closer
staff's
and closer
amazing.
to Age of Sigmar.
Yes.
So, at some point, they will blend together.
I can see a lot of people doing Caradron Overlord and Leagues of Votann kit bashes between the two, because you could do some amazing stuff with those floating Ironkin droids and stuff. I think that'd be really nice. But yeah. Very
Where's
cool
that coming
there.
from behind him? Is there a back?
It's like a
shot, is it
backpack
where-
with that
Yeah.
sort of attached to it, yeah. They all have those kind of like back banners kind of thing set up. So, yeah.
Dragon
See where it was
prow.
sitting.
Yeah, like a prow. Yeah.
Couldn't see where it was sitting on him. That's all.
Yeah. But yeah, that's your kind of like psychic spellcaster from the Grimdark future to play around with. It's pretty cool. You also got the Einherjar champion. So this is going to be one of your slightly more super powered leaders that you throw into the mix when you're playing your games. Comes in that hefty power armor that we've seen before. Looking pretty cool.
What happens when you boil wash a Space Marine?
Exactly. Yeah. I've not necessarily heard. Well, I've not heard anyone sort of say that they don't like these. I am a bit on the fence about them. I'm not sure about the shoulder pads. I want to see what they look like if you don't put those big sort of ballistic defense sort of shoulder pads on the side. Just to see if the shoulders and the arms in general still look right. But I suppose we'll see. They have been described as living battering rams. So as you might imagine, they like going into combat. So there we go. Very cool stuff.
It kind of feels like the Leagues of Votann are going to go down a similar way that Tau did. You know, you're either going to absolutely love them or you're absolutely never going to want to be anywhere near them.
I think that's the case. Yeah.
It's very right.
Yeah. As well as the Einherjar champion, we also got a look at one of the special characters, or at least the special character is going to be in the codex to begin with, called Uthtar the Destined, who is a mighty Votanese warrior. I'm going to call him Votanese now. That's the thing. So this is one of the special characters. Comes with the ancient blade that you see there, the blade of the ancients, which is his special weapon. A very craggy face.
I was going to say he has the concept demiurge sketch that we seen like a decade ago for Battlefleet Gothic. He has that
cool.
look of the Thing.
Thing
He looks just like the Thing. Yeah, just paint him orange.
Ben Grimm.
Yeah.
Grim. Yeah. But he comes with a bunch of different pieces in the kit, so that will effectively allow you to make just a standard Khan if you want to as well. So if you want to lead the way with a Carl instead. A Carl, sorry, I said it wrong. Yeah, I was thinking Star Trek too much, but there we go. So you can either have him as a special character or you can have him as just a regular old dude. You've also got the big old vehicle that was revealed for them as well. So this is the Hecaton Land Fortress. Alas, it was not a land train as everyone was hoping it would be. But yes,
Kind of everything.
Very much going for that kind of Martian moon buggy style look that they've had for a lot of their vehicles, which I guess kind of works quite nicely with the idea of them being sort of an expeditionary fleet heading out there and stuff like that. It certainly puts their vehicles in a very different place aesthetically from a lot of the stuff that's out there, where it's kind of got tones of the Imperium and that kind of thing, but also a little bit more alien in design as well, bringing it in line with a lot more of the curves and stuff that you see amongst Xenos craft and things as well. So it's an interesting vehicle. It'll be interesting. I'd like to see how this actually looks on a tabletop, because you often can't really tell from some of these pictures what it'll look like scale wise alongside everything else on the table. But,
that's what
cool.
I'm struggling with at the minute is like the image. I'm not keen on the image, but I know if I see the model, it'll probably change my mind on it.
Yeah. Definitely one of those vehicles that you probably want to bring out the big old brush for, or get an airbrush. Probably get an airbrush.
It's not a land train. But is that a pair of magnets right there?
It does look a little bit like a land train now when you think. There's your little buffers on the front. Yeah. But yeah, so that was the big vehicle that was revealed as well. These are not all of these, but some of these are going to be part of what's going to be the new army set for the Leagues of Votann that is going to be available after the release of the Codex Chaos Demons, which is going to be hitting web stores this weekend, I think, the Chaos Demons Codex. So this will allow you to dive in and pick up all of these miniatures before the general release of the Leagues of Votann. It comes with, as you can see there, 2 sets of the Hearthkin Warriors. You've got the sort of speeder bikes as well, and then you've got the 2 leader characters at the same time there. So you've got fast attack, 2 troop choices, and then 2 HQ. Kind of allows you to play sort of patrol size games, or maybe get yourself started doing some Crusade or something, as they did on Warhammer TV this week as well. The box set will also come with a limited edition codex and a bunch of other bits and pieces in there as well. But as they said, and something that should impress on everyone, you don't have to buy it now, because it will all be available later, unless you really, really want that limited edition codex, or you just really want to be playing Leagues of Votann at the moment. I'm not just saying this so there's one left for me.
Sure.
There we go.
nobody in this believes you, though.
This is the second most important piece of news.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So,
finally.
Yeah, the Khorne Berserkers, after 20 plus years without a good kit. Sorry, Kroot. You've only just got an update, I suppose. But now we have the dynamic and fluid running motions.
They are running.
Khorne Berserkers who are charging forward into battle. They have been upscaled a little bit, so they'll match alongside a lot of the new Chaos Space Marines and the Primaris and that kind of stuff as well. They've kept a lot of their standard iconography that you'd imagine for Khorne, namely trim, all the trim, and also those big horned helms as well that are very familiar to a lot of people. Alas, the weird green-eyed skull face is not there in its purest form across the models, but there are still a couple of models who are wearing big masks with big teeth and everything set into them as well.
Kind of everything.
Kind of corny. But yeah, this is going to be a new set that will come with a bunch of different weapons options. So you'll have plasma pistols and bolt pistols alongside your chain swords and chain axes, as well as double-handed chain axes and chain swords as well. All for the new World Eaters Codex, which we know is coming later this autumn. So watch out for that. I know a lot of people actually really like these, so it'll be, and I think they've been a long time coming as well. So it's fun to see them finally hitting the tabletop once more, and it'll be good to see what people do with them. And that guy in the middle, he looks a lot like Khan the Betrayer, even though he's not Khan the Betrayer. But he,
the guy in the top right is Gabriel Seth.
Yes,
it is Gabriel Seth's pose with Gabriel Seth's weapon.
Yes, I have snuck in here. I may be a flesh terror, but
then he's dead, so I mean, it doesn't matter.
Wow, that's true. Yeah,
I'm just impressed that somebody other than the Sister Battle managed to put a 200 haft onto a chainsword.
Yeah,
why is it taking everybody else so long to catch up?
So yes, Khorne Berserkers popping up very, very soon, and then a big one for Forge World fans and also those playing Warhammer: The Horus Heresy. This, yes, John. Be still your beating heart. This is Horus Ascended, which is the new Forge World resin. Don't worry, there's no fine cast involved. Version of Horus, because they were like, hey, wait a minute. Horus looks a little bit too nice and normal in this one.
He looks too loyal in the old
sculpt. Looks too loyal, yes. So they've designed this version of Horus when he has been taking heads quite literally, and strapping them to his armor and kicking ass and taking names. The wolf is a little bit more bedraggled. He's in the pose which suggests that he's storming through a bunch of space marines, ripping into pieces. And the base, of course, is littered with bones and body parts.
Salamanders.
Yes. So he has been crushing things with his mighty mace and that lightning claw as well.
Poor salamanders.
It's great to see Horus get a resculpt like this, because I think they say in the article they based it on the Horus they used for the animated trailer for Heresy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and he just looked in that trailer looked fantastic.
He really did. It was very cool.
He's so much bulkier and so much heavier in his custom Terminator armor. So
yeah,
I'd thought for my Heresy army I was going to be buying Horus, and now that this one is on the table, I'm like, I'm buying Horus.
Horus Ascended, please.
Yes, please. I'll have to wait for everyone else to buy theirs, of course. This is going to sell out, and it'll be very hard to get for a while. So
one of the interesting things that was also somewhat of a sore point for one of our lovely community members is that they've said that they're going to do, again, all of the Primarchs, but in their Height of the Heresy form. Maybe that means some of them won't have any heads, but
Sanguinius will have a hole through his chest.
Yeah. But as one of our poor community members was just coming to the end of their Forge World Primarch journey, they now suddenly have all of them to paint again if they so desire. But there we go.
Shocking stuff.
And this all comes out around the same time as them announcing that the final book in the Siege of Terror, or at least the final set of books in the Siege of Terror, are coming out. So finally, maybe
death in the end,
there will be a finality to the Horus Heresy book series, and someone can actually go, oh, I can fit out my library properly now. Until they go,
this actually has an end.
Yes.
Spoilers, Horus doesn't win.
Or does he?
Dun, dun, dun.
So yes, moving on from Warhammer 40,000, we also have some news from the Mortal Realms themselves. So we got a little bit of a taste of destruction, a side of chaos as well, because you can't have a live stream and a preview without some chaos in there as well. So we got some knowledge that a couple of new miniatures are going to be coming out for both the Ogre or Ogre More Tribes and the Behemat, the Sons of Behemat as well. So the first of the miniatures was the Blood Pelt Hunter, which was this was the teaser for, which is a new hunter model, probably going to be a new character to include in your Ogre More Tribes armies. It doesn't look like they're actually going to fully refresh the Ogre range at this point. I think they're just going to keep adding occasional miniatures in here and there. The Blood Pelt Hunter, in much the same way as many of the mercenary ogres of the old world, is the guy that you call up if you need some pests exterminated. And unlike most of his kin, he doesn't just eat all of his prey with gravy. He actually uses their body parts and turns them into useful things. So he uses the heads of strange lizards as a quiver for his arrows. And also he uses the furs of beasts that he's killed to keep him warm and all that kind of thing as well.
Does he think the other members of whatever herd that is will think he's part of the herd?
Yes, I think that's probably what he's doing. Yes.
Okay. I'm more interested in what this is.
Yeah, I don't know.
What is this? Is that
That's
some form of drake? Is it part of lizard men? Is it something serpenty and unusual and different?
Yeah.
We finally get new cold ones.
But that's what's quite nice about whenever they do something new for the for Age of Sigmar and the Mortal Realms, so that you tend to see something quirky and a bit weird that makes you go, oh, but how's that linked into the Mortal Realms? It's why the Soulbound RPG is so good, because you start going, so that's this kind of creature that lives here and stuff, and it starts to add a little bit more flavour to the world, which is always nice to see. But yeah, so there's a couple more details of what he's been up to, what he's been killing. You also got some new stuff coming for the Sons of Behemat, who are going to be getting themselves a new battle tome later this year as well. Both of these should be dropping sort of autumn, winter time. This is King Brod, who was mentioned during the Realm Gate Wars back when Age of Sigmar first started out, but he's now going to be coming back as a upgrade kit for the Mega Gargant kit for Warhammer Age of Sigmar. So you'll be able to take this and the Brod kit, smash them together, and create yourself the King of the Giants that you can try and steal from at the top of a beanstalk. He also comes with those little tiny red impish creatures that cower around their bodies and hide in the shade of their beards and all that kind of thing. Apparently, these are the chaps that make sure all their war paint looks good and look after all of their equipment, which I thought was quite an interesting thing. So, ogres have noblars. The Sons of Behemat have little tiny creepy crimson imps. So there we go.
Say little tiny.
I mean, they are still fairly big, I suppose.
Surely
Yes,
bigger than a goblin type of
well,
thing.
yeah, actually, that's true. Yeah, I keep thinking of it as a 28mm model, when in actual fact, it's a huge piece, because that's a tree that he's carrying. So there we go.
Yeah.
He's also got a very easily identifiable fingerprint.
Yes, he does.
Based on that world pattern there.
He's also been wading in the water as well, because if you look at his feet, he's got terribly pruny toes. I mean, very bad.
Man needs to lotion.
Get out of the bath. Yeah.
Moisturize.
So is it to something else, I think, yeah.
So some really fun little bits and pieces there. They're called creepers. That's what they're called. There you go.
Creeper's going to creep.
Yeah. And he's wearing the head of a dragon, which I think is amazing.
That is very cool.
Yeah.
Base is really well done.
Yes, it is. And as a lot of people have interestingly said, if you're going to be starting an Age of Sigmar army, the Sons of Behemat isn't necessarily a bad one to start with, because you only probably have to buy about 3 models. And as long as you're willing to paint big models, you're kind of done. So there we go. But yeah. Moving on from destruction, We also have some more stuff for the Slaves to Darkness. So they're going to be getting a launch set. This isn't an army box for whatever reason, but they're going to be getting a new battle tome later this year. And alongside that will be this box set that will allow you to pick up all of the new miniatures they're going to be working on. So we saw that the Chaos Warriors got a little bit of an update during the last edition of Age of Sigmar, but now we're getting a few more models thrown into the mix as well. So you've got the new Demon Prince that you see at the back there that we've seen in previous previews as well, which is quite a nice model. It comes with options to make it undivided, but you can also go down the route of giving it a head, making it cornate, Slaneshi, Nurglified, or even sentient, if you prefer, which is very nice. You've also got the Ogroid Therodons, which are the chaps on the right-hand side, which are your sort of upgraded Ogroids that you find in the world of the Mortal Realms. We saw the first one back in Silver Tower, and then Warcry had one as well, I think. But they've now been fully integrated into the Armies of Chaos on the tabletop. Pardon me. Oh, the Chaos people have made me all of a flutter. But there we go. We've also then got the new Chaos Chosen miniatures as well, who, for the first time in a very long time, have been properly updated. And they actually look like they can kick your ass now, which is always nice to see. And a very welcome addition alongside the updated Chaos Warriors that we saw. You can see a couple of the Chaos heads, actually. If you scroll down a little bit, you'll see some of the Demon Prince heads and stuff. So there we go. That's the kind of stuff you'll be able to get that's coming up as well. So yeah, very nice. And then, to cap things off, because there's always one warband that gets snuck in there during these previews, we got a new warband for Warhammer Underworlds. These are the Gore Chosen of Drom, which sounds like an 80s movie.
I was about to say it's very 80s.
Yeah. It's very Temple of Doom, isn't it? Very Temple of Doom.
Especially with that headdress, I think.
Oh, non-Savoy, yeah.
Although they would take your heart and then eat it. So you've got Drom there at the front, who is a priest model within the game, which allows him to cast incantations on the rest of his fellows. It's important that these are prayers that he's uttering, not spells. Otherwise, Khorne would kill him instantly. But yes, sure. Yeah. You have Drom there, who sort of stirs up the ire within his compatriots, and then you've got the Gore Hulk on the left there. He's going to be kicking ass and taking names, looking very cool.
Got a big toilet seat.
A big old toilet seat around his head. And there's also a chap on the right there that I believe was seen in a previous game, perhaps. I can't remember. But that is your new set of Warhammer Underworlds models for you to play around with. So yes, quite a lot of stuff there for Warhammer 40,000 and Warhammer Age of Sigmar. Whew, we're done. There we go. But hey, thanks guys so much for putting out on the week of our show. So fantastic. There we go. So.
Miracles can happen.
Miracles can happen. Yeah.
There we go. Moving away from the world of Whampster and taking a look at some Marvel Crisis Protocol. So another small IP from a young up-and-comer.
So yes.
Sentinels.
They do, yeah. So as a lot of folks will know, not too long ago, well, actually a couple of years ago now, they released the X-Men, didn't they? Which came out with a whole bunch of awesome miniatures for both the X-Men and the Brotherhood of Mutants. Well, what do you need when mutants are running amok and trying to kill the president and all that kind of stuff? You need some Sentinels.
Yeah.
In fact, you need some US government authorized Sentinels. So that's where these step into the mix. These are the Mark IV Sentinels. There are quite a few different marks of Sentinels, apparently, from looking on the old Marvel wiki. But these are going to be used to hunt down mutants on the tabletop and incarcerate them, by which we mean kill them. So yes. So these are going to be dropped into people's collections very, very soon. Right. They are, in terms of scale, so I saw a couple of scale comparisons online. They look to be about the size of Dormammu, which is one of their models from before. Right. So if you have Dormammu in your collection, it's about that big, so pretty tall. And just a little bit bigger than the Hulkbuster suit as well, which is one of the models that we've seen from a couple of years ago now as well. So yes, a very cool set of Sentinels to pick up. I really, really hope that people step away from this strange, realistic-looking paint scheme and instead paint them in the brightest pinks and blues to match the 90s cartoon, because
solid
that's what
colours.
you have to
that's
do.
What we want.
Yes, solid colours. None of this sheens of metallics.
We don't need dark and gritty. They're Sentinels.
Exactly.
I do like they've done it as a twin pack.
Yes. Yeah.
I wasn't certain if they would or if they would go for singles. I imagine price will probably reflect it. But look, there it is there. Look, all cartoonish.
There's the old
there.
cartoon versions, yeah.
Just do that.
Yeah.
So much better.
Mm-hmm.
And it'd be interesting to see what way they behave on the tabletop as well. Because obviously with some of the big things we've seen from Marvel Crisis Protocol, you've had specific narrative
like
encounters,
Thanos and
like Thanos or like Hulk just going nuts. So potentially being able to have a couple of Sentinels just punching all around them. You know, it doesn't matter if you're an X-Man or a Brotherhood of Mutant member, you're going to get reeled in and punched repeatedly in the face by a Sentinel.
They are going to come with a set of tactics cards in the set, as all of these do, allowing you to kind of mix and match them in with whatever you have around. So I'm sure there will be interesting ways for you to use them, both in matched play and in something scenario based. Because I know that Thanos could actually be taken as part of a gang if you really wanted him to. But there we go.
True.
So, yeah.
It's much nicer to have.
How much do you hate your opponent? I suppose.
Paul. Hello, Paul's lovely.
In which case, you'll both fight against the Sentinels.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah, it's definitely a way to do it. Some of the more amusing stories in both the cartoons and comics were when you had to get team-ups between the X-Men and Magneto and his friends to deal with a Sentinel threat. You know, somebody had gone out for a night in the town, accidentally bumped into Mystique, and they're about to have a fight. No, Sentinel. You know, how are we going to get out of this one? Well, teamwork. Teamwork. It's the way it goes.
The dream work.
And then get Colossus to throw Wolverine at their heads. When all else fails, fastball them.
I really want someone to play out the first episode of X-Men with Jubilee, where she's in the shopping mall and the Sentinels bust through the roof and start trying to find her and catch her and stuff like that. That'd be really cool. Even though Jubilee, but whatever.
Poor Jubilee. Her only crime is being the worst. Just the utter worst.
Jubilee.
Right. Well, sticking with things from our youth, but a very different take this time. Modiphius and Gearbox.
Yeah, so really an unexpected IP to head over, in all fairness. And in all fairness, if it was going to go anywhere, I presume it would have gone to somewhere like Modiphius, as they've got Elder Scrolls and Fallout, but they're Bethesda titles. So Homeworld is going to be heading to the tabletop. So as Gary said, Modiphius and Gearbox are going to be bringing massive space fleet battles to the tabletop with Homeworld Fleet Command. So when I say massive, I mean a lot of units. So we'll be getting a miniatures board game out of this one. So they've promised an epic and intense fleet battles in under an hour, which I find quite interesting, 1 whole hour. So considering how many models and units you've got, I'd be interested to see how that is possible. So what we do know at the moment about the game is it's going to be making its debut on crowdfunding. So don't know what platform it's going to yet. But the set is going to be including 101 miniature plastic ships. So that's 101. Wow. So there's Mothership, 48 biters, 24 corvettes, 24 frigates, 2 carriers, and 2 destroyers. So if you didn't want to stop there, there's going to be even more ships in the expansion. And then, as well as this, so you've got the expansion, 100, and you've got 101 in the original. And what's even more mad is that you can combine boxes as well. So Modiphius have said that if you do have 2, you can push them together, or you and a friend can push them together to create even bigger space fleet. So it's not all just about pew, pew, pew in space. It's not just all about that. There is a campaign as well. There is campaigns. So there's going to be a 10-part campaign, and it's going to teach the basics of either a skirmish or an epic battle against storyline scenarios. So there's going to be a solo mode too, which is also an interesting feature, and I'd like to know how that's possible as well. So it's really, really cool. There is a sign-up announcement that is over on Modiphius that's going to kind of drip feed you some news here and there about what's upcoming. But all we know at the moment is what they've released, and that it's coming to crowdfunding in November. So
not too far away then.
Not too far. I do wonder where it is going to go, in all fairness, but quite an interesting one.
I'll be fascinated to see how things turn out. I played the original. I never played the second. and I think
There's a new one
third
coming as well.
is
Yeah,
coming right
Next year, yeah.
Okay, so I don't know what 2 and 3 are like, but the original, obviously being an RTS, started more or less with you and your fleet out showing off your lovely new ship, and then, oh, shy of surprise, there's an attack, and you have to essentially Battlestar Galactica out of there with whatever you have that is now your world, and you've got to find your new place to live without upsetting anybody else or being ruffle-stomped by the fleet that already tore through you. So I imagine that would be the premise for the solo campaign.
Mm-hmm.
You get kicked trying out your new ships and then have to flee the area, flee the
Age
system.
of Empires in space, really.
Yeah, very much so. But there were some beautiful ships in there. It was one of the first sort of games that I started playing around in the sci-fi thing that had that fully 3D. You could go all the way around, look at the ships in every orientation, and go, "Oh, it looks so beautiful. My fleet looks gorgeous. And my fleet is a burning hulk in space. Oh my God, run, tiny fleet, run! Oh, you know how much that cost to build? Oh, I hate you so much."
What I quite liked about what they've announced is that it's going to be board based, though.
Yeah.
So you're not going to have to worry about building a big table or anything like that. I like that it's so. Hopefully, it's going to be, because obviously they're going to try and play this into an hour. You're probably going to have kind of sector based stuff. So there'll be zones that you'll move into and stuff, rather than it being very incremental and measured precisely and stuff. So.
No, it is going to be fascinating to see how they handle it.
Yeah.
Because converting RTS to a tabletop game is fairly tricky.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously the whole idea of resource gathering and all the rest lends itself to a board game much more so than a tabletop miniatures game. But yeah, I look forward to seeing it. And if it turns out that the game itself doesn't work out because it's terrible, that's 2 massive fleets, 4 billion suns. Right?
Yes,
oh, yes, exactly.
You are correct.
But bam, billion suns.
It's all working out.
The minute that was posted by Modiphius online, it immediately got spammed onto the Billion Suns face. I was just like, fleets, coloured fleets, look at these with all the little tiny fighters and ships. Yeah. Hopefully the game works as well, because, it's always terrible having to cannibalize a game just for their miniatures. If you can get a game out of it and use it in multiple things, then so much the better.
Halo Ground Command.
I wonder if one of the big motherships then will be the 101st.
That might be the case. Yeah.
They have released the mothership, so you might recognise it. I'm sure they have a picture out of it, so you may recognise it.
I'll have a look on ABS later on, see what the Facebook group's doing, because it will be there. It will be there. But yeah, so taking a touch of the fantasy then.
Yes, we've got a couple more things.
Conquesty.
Yeah. So a bunch more pre-orders coming up for Conquest from Parabellum Wargames. They've been moving a lot of their stuff over towards the plastic medium, as it were, now for you to use in your game. So it's a little bit nice to play around with when you're modeling and that kind of stuff as well. And also nice big 35mm models in plastic is very good to see. So yes, this is one of the new leader characters that you need to think about before you pronounce. So this is the Volva character that is going to be dropping into your games. This is one of the Valkyries that has ascended to higher heights within the Nords society. I'll be leading the way on the tabletop, spear in hand, giving off those proper awesome Sia vibes, which I really nice about them as well, not the singer. And I also like that they've kind of gone with that really cool sort of Nordic mythology style feel to her headdress and design and everything as well. So you've got that vibes of sort of Nordic priests and stuff going into there, which is always good to see. But talking of the Volva and the Valkyries, we also have the unit of Valkyries that's going to be landing on the tabletop soon as well, again in plastic. I actually really quite like these.
That's really nice, yeah.
Yeah. A lot of people said, "Oh, no, what the hell are you doing? These look too busy." I was like, "Begone, foul knave. These are amazing." So I think they all look really fun, and I like that they feel like individuals as well. So you've got that kind of almost angelic warrior thing going on, like they've been called on by the gods to come and save the souls of those below them. And because I've played God of War from 2018, I think the designs on these are phenomenal. phenomenal, and I think they probably pitched a couple of ideas from them as well. I particularly like the lady on the right-hand side with that full that sort of half face mask and the wings on the side. Looks amazing. Very, very cool. And another one of those things that's making me go, hey, why don't you collect Nords? Why don't you play Conquest, Ben? So there we go.
I can only assume that people going, oh, they're too busy, haven't seen a single model from Parabellum at all then.
Oh, yeah, probably.
Because this is just their design and sculpting style. Yeah, it's not like they've suddenly introduced this.
They're not any more busy than, well, have you painted 40K recently?
Well, exactly.
Come on, if you want busy models, you can go over there and have a seizure.
I think they look great. Yeah, and I think when you're going up to that kind of scale, you want to see more of that stuff built into the models, of course, when you're playing the game. Yeah. So yes, as well as that, the Nord's got some updated plastic models as well. So the Blooded has been updated. So he's now rushing forward into combat with his sword at the ready. Again, plenty of awesome kind of Viking vibes going on there, which, as you'd imagine, from the Nords. But then I really like that there's the additional kind of very Conquest touches to the model as well. So you've got the way that the armor is designed and all that kind of stuff that kind of gives it a little bit more of an archaic and fantasy feel, which is always nice to see. And I think a really nice pose as well, a little bit more dynamic. Meaning that it kind of fits really nicely with First Blood and the skirmish war games and stuff as well.
I prefer the other pose for the blood.
How dare you, John? You foul knave.
The sword over the top of the head about to cleave something.
I mean, that is very cool.
This is hard plastic, though, isn't it?
Yes.
This is like
the new plastic one.
Dweghom character. They're changing over from resin to hard plastic.
The resins are great.
I love the resins.
The resins
are very nice.
Stupidly good.
You may have to pick up the old Blooded before this one takes over, I suppose. But there we go. But if you do have the old one, you can just pick up a new one, and then you've got two variants.
You've got two,
The Bow Chosen as well, which were one of my favourite units from when the North got their update of their second wave of stuff. Oh, I love these. Like proper cool Viking-style hunters. Got the one there, the lady with the raven on her hand. Got those really awesome skull wolf masks with the sort of bandanas around them as well. And people wearing the helmets and masks as well with the hoods up. Oh, amazing stuff. Really, really cool. All available in plastic now.
Creeping out of the night.
Kit. Yeah.
Trying to scare people. Make the 100 Kingdoms wet themselves.
Yeah. And then to cap things off, because I couldn't not show it off, we have the Dweghom and their new Whole Rake, which is, again, a new plastic version.
Wow.
Charging forward into battle, axe at the ready to chop the head off a dragon that's not a dragon because they killed all the dragons.
You have put too much dwarf in this episode.
I have not.
There's a lot of dwarf. Space dwarfs and all.
There is no such thing as too much dwarf.
There might be such a thing as too much dwarf.
We are small and stunted. We must be represented.
Just because they're smaller, you can fit more of them in a small space.
Exactly.
Yes. Doesn't mean you can just keep filling these weekenders out with them.
I hear you not, John.
And yes, he will do exactly that.
This is my own private shopping channel.
The Whole Ray is really, really nice. I'm trying to remember. I think the resin one is more static than that. It just holds.
It
the
is.
axe.
Yes, he's got the axe to the side.
Yeah. So it's nice to see that they've attempted to put a bit of motion and movement into them. Yeah.
Again, very good for the skirmish game. And if you are tempted by Conquest, I would really recommend going to check out First Blood. The rules are free, and you can buy little box sets that come with enough models for you to play the game for pretty darn cheap as well. So,
you don't need a huge amount, and they've put some interesting army builds and mechanics in there to make it a hero with his force, essentially, rather than just a cut down version of Last Argument. So it has a similar but different feel for the game. Yeah. Right. Looking at Loke.
They are gearing up for their releases that are coming out this month. Okay, so there's two new products coming into the fray for RPGers to completely indulge in. So this month we have got a new box of adventure and another giant book of battlemats, so increased in size with more maps that are book bound. So the first product that we've got there is their second box of adventure, and this is going to be giving players some more coastal setting stuff. So the new book is called Coast of Dread, And it's got a whole host of fantasy goodness inside. So you've got 24 different 11 by 17 inch maps, 300 plus tokens. So these are the slot out ones as well. And they include terrain, monsters, opponents, NPC, and PC options. So everything you see can be kind of drawn on with the dry white, wet white, and be rubbed out with no bother, thanks to good old-fashioned laminating. But
Laminating.
laminated. And the maps and tokens have been themed up with the likes of rats and graveyards and coastal villages. So pretty
Zombie
cool.
pirate.
Zombie pirate, pretty cool wide span of different fantasy themes in there. So if you do buy this box as well, you're going to get yourself a code inside that is going to allow you to get everything on the digital side as well. So once you get this, you can actually use it to play online with your friends as well. So second release is your another giant book. So inside we're getting a stack of 62 different maps in a 16.5 by 12 inch size, slight thin spiral bound up the middle. You can go from flying vehicles, you can go desolate ruins, or absolutely, or you just your static old dungeon if you're looking for it. So these are all being beautifully illustrated across each double page, as you can see, and they've all been gridded too to make it pretty easy.
An arena with a camp.
An arena with a camp. Oh, looks like a little circus tent in the corner, doesn't it? Little
Bread and
like the
circuses.
Hero Quest dungeon tiles as well. It's cool.
It might be that circus tent might be there for the Feywild D&D kind of stuff.
Oh yeah.
But they've been gridded too as well, so that can help you do a bit of tracking.
Perfect.
So although they are out this month, they've said they're going to start shipping in September, which means this month, obviously. So we can expect it soon, but they are up for pre-order over on the Loke website, or if you can find them online.
And I know a lot of people don't just necessarily use these for role-playing games. They use them for their skirmish games and all sorts of things. I've seen people playing Rangers of Shadow Deep on these, which is a really good idea
as well.
Yeah,
a few other things. It's also nice that that's the third iteration of the fantasy books, and all three fantasy books have similar double-page spreads in them. So if you've got a forest, there's a forest in each one. There's dungeon in each one, there's chapel, blah blah blah, village, which means if you've got any of the other books, then you can use these to build up side by side, interlock, move them alongside, so you can build up a larger mat to play on if you're going to use miniatures incorrectly in games. Did say a long time ago, I think I'd mentioned the fact that the designer Matt has a Patreon where he does like ridiculous 6x4s and stuff with a group of other people. I did ask about that. I don't know if I ever mentioned it on the show.
I don't think you did.
So the Patreon, if you look for Loke Battlemat, but with 2 T's because it's his name, on Patreon, you'll find that,
the link in below,
which is just something that he does for himself for his own amusement, because you could never physically produce any of this stuff, but it's for his own games and stuff. So whenever he's designing a ridiculous sized mat or map or whatever you want to call it for his own gaming group that couldn't physically be produced, they tend to wind up there. And there's a few other people who do similar sort of patrons who all sort of throw in and do these oversized and insane sort of looks at tabletop gaming if you do that virtual thing as well. So yeah,
the digital thing. Yeah,
the digital thing. Yeah, I'm aware of it. I just use a voice channel and I scribble things in front of me on pieces of paper. There's my last game.
Nice.
So Loke's out of the way. We have one last story there.
Yes, because it was a chock-a-block week, but we have come to the end. But I wanted to show off these because this is a new set, well, 2 new sets of plastic 28mm add-up infantry for use with Deus Vult and the like from the folks at Fireforge. For a little bit of Crescent Cross. So yes, just a quick one with these because we only got a little bit of a sneak peek of what's going to be inside of them because they're going to be available later in the year in November. But this is the Berber infantry, which come with swords, shields, and bows that allow you to make sort of archer regiments or just your standard infantry if you prefer And then you also have the Black Guard there as well, which come with spears and shields, that classic look to the army as well on the tabletop. And the sprues come with a fair amount of stuff on them for you to be tinkering around with, which is always nice to see. I think each of the boxes makes about 24 soldiers.
24, yeah.
So you can either go down the route of making it one larger regiment, or you can split them down as well. So if you picked up the Berber, you could do 12 archers and 12 infantrymen if you wanted, or you could do, a full regiment of either, depending on what you would like to do.
Yeah. So if you're running your Black Guard as Hearthguard and Saga, you need them use them in 4s. But obviously you can max them out at units of 12 and then play around with it that way.
I also like that one of them has a book at the ready as well.
I was just thinking that.
He's either diving into a little bit of Jane Austen on the battlefield, or he's...
I think that's unlikely.
Or he's reciting prayers and litanies to those in front of him to get them ready for battle.
Certainly the way to do it. They're really nice. The Fireforge sculpts are excellent.
Oh yeah,
they've done some historic stuff.
I think we should actually have a proper look at them as an indie. I think going through some more of their stuff. If we haven't before, people can tell us in the comments if we haven't done that already. But I don't think we have.
I don't think we have. And I mean, these 2 plastic kits are in addition to, they already have a range of resin Arabs.
And a Saladin, because everyone was asking for Saladin. He exists.
He does. So, very much so. Looking very, very tidy indeed. But yeah, the weapon options are good. The sculpts are always excellent.
One of the things,
casting's very good. I think the casting's still done by Renedra.
I think so.
Hold me to that.
One of the things I really like about these kits that they do is that they're designed with gamers in mind.
Yeah.
So they've done it so the bodies and the legs all together, you just got to stick whatever head and arms on, and away you go. So if you're going to be building mass infantry armies, you've got everything you need to dive in and have fun with that without too much tinkering and all that jazz. So,
despite the fact there are 6 bodies per sprue, you've got between 8 and 10 heads, 10 there for the Black Guard, 10
plenty
for the Berbers as well.
So
plenty of options, so you're not going to have too much repetition within a specific unit as well, which is always good. I may have to get some of these. I've got a small Islamic force for the Crusades from Footsore, but I could be
tempted by more.
Well, at the moment, it's mostly cavalry.
Well, there you go. Now you need the infantry.
So now I need the infantry, but I still need some Berber on camels as well to complete the whole.
That's next Fireforge.
Berber
on camels.
Yeah, actually, that's not a bad shout. Do that for me, and then that way I won't have to go looking, because I am, and this is very true, a notoriously lazy man, which is somewhat, compensated by the fact that whenever I decide to look for something, I'll spend like 5 hours looking, and I will find everybody who's produced them. But it's getting me to the point where I start looking, and if you just go ahead and just do plastics now, that saves me so much. I'd buy at least 1 box. That's better be worth the investment. No?
Maybe.
Really?
Potentially.
Well,
if Fireforge don't sort you out, Wargames Atlantic will do it.
Oh, well, that is very, very true. There you go, Hudson. Give me camels. Give me camels or give me death. Right, that wraps us up for the news. We'll let you digest that, and we'll come back with a quick swish to wrap up the show. Okay, folks, we are back, and we're going to wrap up the show with a bit of 3D printing first. And then we're going to take a look at a couple of Kickstarters that have caught our eye.
Yeah.
So, 3D printing is the shiz.
Heard that, yeah. Something about that.
Where are we looking this week then, Ben?
So it is the start of a new month, and that means a new host of releases from Raging Heroes for Heroes Infinite. They have stepped away from the sci-fi this time around, and they've put together an amazing range for Arthurian legends. So if you wanted to dive in and play around with some awesome characters like Arthur, Merlin,
King of the Britons,
Lancelot, the dastardly Lancelot, Morgana, the Green Knight, the Lady of the Lake, that wet bint.
Moistened bint.
Moistened bint.
We would have also accepted watery tart.
There is a whole host of very, very cool STL files for you to download, get stuck into, print off, and use in your games. if you are someone who is playing one of those system agnostic, well, miniature agnostic style fantasy games out there, you will definitely want to go and check this out, because this is going to be perfect for those people who are putting together classically medieval fantasy armies on the tabletop. But also, these would be great for those people that are trying to put together really fun 9th Age, not Bretonnian armies for use on the tabletop as well, because I think you've got a really nice section of very fun characters and troops and all sorts of different things for you to put into the mix for this. And as is the case with everything that comes out from Raging Heroes, everything is very dynamic and it has a really cool style and feel to it. And will probably be pretty darn different from everything else that you've got on the tabletop when it comes to putting together armies and things like that. So yes, an absolutely astonishing range, as you're seeing here in the trailer. I mean, I think they speak for themselves, really, in most regards.
Very much so.
I think if you've even if you've got some Basilean armies getting ready for the tabletop, these would be great.
Well, you could use the Order of the Brother Mark. I think the people who joined Basileia to go for their
the Order of Brother Mark.
Yeah, yes. Order of the Brother Mark, or the Order of the Green Lady, if you want to lean on the more natural side of things and go full on creepy stuff and water elementals and all of that.
Exactly. Very cool stuff.
Very good.
I was particularly. You can see a couple of the different miniatures up close and personal here, rather than in a flashy trailer form. But yes, you've got some really fun new miniatures. I really quite like the mounted Lancelot, though I kind of wish that the creature was lunging forwards as well. I think that'd be kind of cool. Posing blue steel style. But I think otherwise, I think the model's really nice. It's got some really nice dynamism to it. My favorite, and I think this is probably John's favorite as well, is the Green Knight.
It is gorgeous.
Before we leave Lancelot,
oh yes,
maybe he's not landing. Maybe that thing is trying to buck him off.
Oh, like maybe
bucking Bronco. That's why it's looking very, very perturbed.
And annoyed,
and its ass end is up in the air.
I know what you did to Arthur. No, get off me. The Lady of the Lake. Oh,
it's gorgeous.
I really want to see someone paint that in. I think we saw someone do. Yes,
poor fish
in her hair. I really want to see someone do that in like a translucent material, like we saw someone doing the project.
Do you know what I want?
Clad in shimmering seamite.
Yes,
I want someone to do those resin art pieces with her, like actually
with
the tip of the sword coming up through the surface of the water. The Green Knight is just
stunning.
Yeah, I don't like the mounted one as much as I like the on foot, though.
I actually prefer the on foot as well. As much as I do like the mountain, I don't think it does it justice.
The horse is breaking its spine.
What I quite like about the armor on the Green Knight is how it's done to mimic wood. I think that's really cool.
Yeah,
moss on the blade and everything.
Oh yes,
like
there's
the flow of the cape going forward.
Yes,
and with the sword back over his head like that, it just looks.
Yeah,
it's very
like it should be.
It's very anime or manga where it's very harsh lines. It's not rippling, flowing fabric. It's like the cloak has gone forward like a sort of super detailed piece of animation.
I also really like, if you scroll up to Merlin, I like how they've got kind of pagan fae influence in there so they've kind of gone with that sort of more classically French interpretation of the knights and medieval Europe and all that kind of stuff. But then there are still lots of those really nice fae nods in there to the kind of pagan
like Morgana
roots and stuff, like Morgana Le Fay with all the creepy trees around her, which things are really nice. And the Black Knight's very cool as well. So, a little bit of Mordred and stuff. And Sir Lancelot. I think I prefer Sir Lancelot with his helmet on. I think it's pretty cool.
I agree.
Hide his face.
A bit more menacing.
Hide his face, the dirty boy. Sleeping with the Queen, how dare you?
How very dare he.
But as is the case with every one of the Heroes Infinite releases over the months, there will be both the sort of standard hero tier and then there's the Overlord tier as well. They have the sort of the basic pledge, as it were, gives you access to kind of all of the characters that you'd want and then a couple of individual unit choices. When you go to the Overlord tier, you start to unlock loads more troops. Just for example, you've got the Knights here and all that kind of stuff as well. And then because you're over on Heroes Infinite, you also get access to some special stuff. So in the past, we've seen things like goblins and strange little creatures, but in this one, you've got an additional Knight of the Realm riding forward as well. I think it's quite nice. But yeah,
And instead of standard Pegasus, they're all on demigriffs or griffins.
yeah.
And
Which kind of remind me a little bit of the art that you see in the illuminations in old manuscripts and stuff. So it's quite nice. But yeah, very cool.
stonking stuff. Nice
Really
to see
is.
them breaking away from sci-fi.
Yeah, they do a lot of
It is,
sci-fi
I
stuff,
agree.
so, yeah, so
One of my favourite sets that they've done was last Halloween's one. John, you like that one as well, didn't you?
Yeah.
With the fairy
The
tales
Red
one. That
Riding
was
Hood
fun.
and stuff. Yeah.
Fantasy. It was gorgeous. And I really loved all of the gods, the gods
oh yeah, that was cool.
representations there. But yeah, nice to see a bit of fantasy.
It's where,
Yes.
it's where I found them originally. The Kunuzmark sisters for my Empire army. Back in the day when they cast things out of metal, before the ones and zeros came in and took things over.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Very nice stuff. I should also add as well that John put together another very cool 3D printing vlog that went up this week. So if you've not watched that, make sure you go and check it out. It's a very good one because John can tell us all about it. But
Yes.
go for it.
How to manage a larger 3D print.
It's just ridiculous, the size of this, John.
It is. It's absolutely stupid, but it was more just I wanted to showcase how Raging Heroes did this model, but I also wanted to talk about how you actually manage your time expectations and time limits with printing something this large as well. It did help that Raging Heroes modeling department did break it down into very manageable pieces. Nothing is too big for the print bed. You can always get multiple parts on each print bed. Like I know sometimes with like a free 3D file, you're really struggling to get certain parts on the beds, but at least they've taken into consideration that your average buy off the shelf 3D printer, the print bed's only that or something.
You'll be able to handle something that huge. But yeah. But yeah. It's a very cool little video. If you want to go and check it out, make sure you go and see what you think of it. I'll put the link in the show notes so you can go and watch it. And maybe you'll be able to get your hands on a Arcadian Colossus yourself when it gets put out for retail potentially in the near future. And go from there. Very cool.
Awesome sauce. So there you go. If you like your Le Mort d'Arthur style of Arthurian, then that's definitely a way to go.
Green Knight for the win.
Yeah, get rid of that sword. Give him a big axe. He deserves a big axe.
Yeah.
Like nature intended.
Did you win one of our prizes? Find out on our prize claim center over at OnTableTop.com. Here we list all our previous prizes and those who have won. If you see your username, fill out the form to claim your prize. All prizes must be claimed within 30 days.
Moving on then, have a quick look at a couple of Kickstarter campaigns. And we're going to be starting off with something from a company I don't think I've heard of before. I'm fairly certain I've never been informed about this before.
It's even ticking up as we watch it.
So Dragonbane, we mentioned this a few weeks ago when the preview came out. In fact, I'll play that because that's just Johan's artwork scrolling past. It's really nice. I just like to see nice things. It is a new edition of a 40-year-old fantasy game. Started off as a generic fantasy, and then over time has become a bit more focused. Although it can be both, it can be played both ways. So if you don't want to use their world, you can still build your own around it with the sort of standard fantasy tropes. But as is often the case, Free League are doing a ton of not just illustrations, but background world building behind us. There's a really nice map as well, which is absolutely gorgeous. To build up the Dragonbane or Drakar Octemone version, which I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it because we have talked extensively in the past, but it is a world that you can dip in and build upon. And one of the things that has made this so successful in Scandinavia is the fact that people have been playing this for 40 years, have been building their own stuff. There have been multiple editions with multiple game books and the like. This gets you a sort of a starter set plus a ton of additional stretch goals that they've built in already, where you can play, as they put it, with mirth and mayhem. And anybody who plays. None of my gaming groups have ever been super serious. Let's put it like that. You start playing something very, very hardcore, and then within about 20 minutes, it becomes a carry-on version of such. It's just the people I play with.
Why has he got a sword up his ass?
Pretty much, like backwards. So with this RPG, you'll be able to get your hands on either a digital, a regular, or deluxe version that come with the sort of the core rulebook, the player's guide, the map, and stretch goal wise, there are also things like dice, standees, maps, virtual tabletops have been unlocked, that sort of thing as well. One of the fascinating things for me is the fact that they are opening it up to third-party content as well. So what they've said is anybody who's interested in writing their own books, adaptations, online sort of worlds or games for it, you can go ahead and do that completely free.
That's wonderful.
All you need to do is they've got a little sort of set of rules, like you can't republish the entire rule set in your version of the book, because then it means this rule set is null and void. But you can do this, put a little logo on it, like the OSR style, to let people know that it's compatible with Dragonbane, and go nuts from there. The game itself uses polyhedrals, but it uses the polys in a sort of 5th edition meets Mutant Year Zero engine style. It's interesting because you have your standard dice rolling, but there's also still the push your luck mechanic from the Year Zero engine baked into it as well.
You want to roll low as well.
Yeah. As you can see here, you've got a quick start guide that you can go and download that has
a very good quick start guide.
Yeah. It gives a really good basis for the actual mechanics itself, plus the backgrounds and names of a couple of NPCs really tickled me. Or say NPCs, pre-generated characters at the end. Look, encumbrance, you don't always have that in games. You've got too much stuff. That'll teach you. But it's a beautiful piece of work already. I imagine, based on the other things Free League have done, by the end, there'll be a whole world built up around it, which will introduce this realm to a whole new generation in Scandinavia, and outside Scandinavia, just a whole new player base, because it's not anything I'd ever heard of. And I played Chronopia extensively, and Chronopia was spawned from this game. And I knew Chronopia came from an RPG, but I never realized it was from Dodd. But look at that. I mean, once again, smug racist elf. Aren't they always?
It's the way they go.
They are, yeah.
It is. But,
and ducks. Duck people.
Mallards, yeah.
Well, duck people come from the fact it comes out of RuneQuest and Glorantha originally. And they kept that in and sort of expanded on it. So you can play off one of those angry feathered things in full on Daffy.
They don't have
or
a height
Donald.
complex, no, not at all.
Now, anytime we ever see ducks in cartoons, Howard, Daffy, or Donald, they all seem to have raging tempers. So maybe that's something that the ducks will have here as well. But yeah, gorgeous looking game already.
Oh.
The quick reference, definitely go and download that, because it will give you a real good idea. Even if you don't plan on backing this Kickstarter, it's funded. It doesn't matter if you don't want to back it right now.
Yeah,
because
there's also a full adventure and everything in it. So,
yeah. But also the fact that they've gone with very Celtic naming for the NPCs. The NPCs in the bottom of this, or in the?
They are at the bottom of this.
Oh, that's okay then.
After the adventure. Yeah.
Well, skip that. People don't want to see that, because otherwise that will ruin it for people. But we have Aidan, which is, that's an Irish name right off the bat.
Yeah.
You mean it's not meant to be said Iodhan?
Oldham.
Aidan.
Yeah.
So Little Fire. He's a grumpy looking fella. Love it. And then there's Orla as well, another Irish name.
Orla.
I don't know if they've done it particularly. But having Orla Moonsilver as another racist elf, so that's all good. But if people are interested in finding out more of this, I got a chance to sit down with 3 of the creative team, a narrative fiction writer, Johan, who's done all the art, and Thomas, who's worked on the game design. And that will be coming out hopefully early next week. But just keep an eye on the channel, and you'll be able to hear a lot more about Dragonbane or Drakar och Demoner.
So good.
I don't think there's much more needs to be said. There are only really 3 pledge levels: digital, physical, or physical with fluffy upgraded stuff. So, and even then, that's only $64. It says, because I've pledged for that one. That says £64, $75, or 798 SEK. But yeah.
So good for a start set.
Yeah, great. Absolutely fantastic for a starter set. And they've been knocking down stretch goals like you wouldn't believe. In fact, I think they busted through all of the stretch goals on the initial page in an hour and a half. And then there was some waiting and tapping of fingers while they updated that. But stretch goals aren't what we're there for. I'm just there for the core game. So that's me. That's my 2 cents. Done, we're dusted, back it, out. I don't care. I'm getting my copy. Yeah,
I might do a little bit of a write-up on the rules as we know them as well, actually, just to give people an idea of what it's like. And things. So,
definitely. We can definitely do that. I might ask Free League if they want to supply a GM for us. We could play a game. That would be
love that. Even if it's the quick start one that we play for.
All play ducks.
The Mallards.
and Kurnar, as far as the eye can see. But our second Kickstarter is the Kinfire Chronicles.
Yes, so you might remember that we talked about this in the news a couple of months ago now, but Incredible Dream Studios have now bought the project to Kickstarter. The trailer is amazing, I will say. So this is a game for 1 to 4 players that comes from a design team that has worked on The Descent, The Witcher 3, if you're like your video games, and also League of Legends as well, which is pretty cool, and Arcane. But it's a cooperative game. I think you can see the influence from a lot of people in the art style and things that they're doing here. But yes, so this is a cooperative game where you're going to be playing as what are called Seekers in the world of Atios. The game is spread over 20 plus hours worth of gameplay, with each individual session broken down to about 45 to 60 minutes each. I'm also going to say standees. Oh boy, standees. Yum, 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 yum. But the way that gameplay normally works is that you'll pick a quest that you're going to be going on. It might be, if it's part of the campaign, then you obviously go in sequence. You'll pick your campaign. You'll unpack everything to do with it. That might be a combat encounter, or it might be something like a town visit or something like that. And then what you will do is that you will have a deck of cards that will be appropriate to your character. And then you will put all the tokens into the bag that are necessary for that particular scenario. As you can see, some of them there. And then you will draw chits out of the bag, and that will determine the initiative that you'll play out your turns in, which is pretty cool. I do like a little bit of a chits in the bag kind of thing. Very nice. Adds a little bit of mystery to it, what you're doing on the tabletop. On your turn, you'll play cards to do abilities. They will be very, very self-explanatory. There's a really good playthrough, actually. Well, actually, I think there's maybe 2 or 3 different parts now at the moment where you can dive in and have fun with it. You play your card from your hand to do an ability, and then depending on the color of the card that you play, other people within your group can aid you in different ways. This might be, if you played a red card, that means that if someone else has a red card around you, they could boost you for more damage, or they might be able to give you extra movement and all that kind of things. And so there's a really big focus on you working together in order to overcome your foes and other different scenarios at the tabletop, which I think is a really nice way of approaching different things. And I like that it's all sort of color-coded as well, I think, which is really cool. So it means that you've immediately got a sort of like an eye on exactly what you do. And you could obviously play this with open hand information, or you could play it with closed, whichever one you wanted to do, really, I suppose. But very, very cool looking set of rules for this one. The other thing that's really nice about this is that, as I say, it's a full-on campaign. So you're not just going to be going from combat encounter to combat encounter. You'll actually be moving into towns and cities, and also just interacting with NPCs on the road and that kind of stuff as you travel around. And as you do, you'll be flipping over cards that will have narrative choices for you to decide upon.
Getting drunk, pickpocketing people in town.
Exactly. That kind of stuff. How do you want to approach it?
Adventure,
Adventure. Standard
murder hobos.
Standard adventure, and so you'll be diving in and playing around with that as well. So you'll have some interesting moments, a little bit more downtime, as well as it being a proper full-on combat style affair on the tabletop. So I think what's really nice about it is that it effectively plays like an adventure board game, like Descent or something like that we've seen in the past. But then it has really nice elements in there from role-playing games as well. So if you don't want to necessarily set up and play a game with a proper role-playing game like D&D, or just someone doesn't fancy being the DM, I think something like this is a really good way to approach gaming with adventure-style affairs on the tabletop because, it looks very, very cool indeed. They've got artists on board that have worked on things like The Witcher, which is very cool, as we said. They've come over from CD Projekt Red, which is pretty good pedigree.
Yeah.
And as you can see, the artwork for this is amazing. They've done really good work on the different characters and all the monsters and the maps and everything like that. And then, of course, because it's a big campaign game, there are lots and lots of secrets for you to explore and dive into as you go through as well. So, yeah, a very cool-looking game for people to play when it comes out later.
Yeah,
well, hopefully next
it is
week, so.
currently just one core box. There's not a ton of spread of, you'll get 10 hours out of the core box, but then if you want the full thing, you're going to have to get 15 other expansions, which is good.
Yeah.
It's all sort of self-contained and fully realized within one box set. So, I appreciate that.
The other thing that was really nice, I thought, in terms of their stretch goals and where they went with the add-ons, is they're things that enhance the
quality
inherently
of life.
The quality of life and the basic game that you pick up. So as you can see, better tokens for Fate, upgraded cards, slightly upgraded premium figurines, and that kind of stuff as well.
Audio narration, so you don't have to waste.
You don't even say anything if you don't want to. I think it's quite nice.
Sure, you approve of that, Ben. Not having to read everything out at the table.
Oh gosh, yeah.
Could you imagine? Oh wow.
Right.
That's not going to happen in your life.
I'm a celebrant adventure. I'm just going to leave it here and then you guys can go. But yeah, it's definitely worth going over to check out the Kickstarter. They've done a breakdown of exactly why they wanted to bring this to Kickstarter and what they hope to do. As you can see by a lot of the things they've done with the artwork, they've tried to create characters that are a little bit different from the norm. You won't see your kind of like standard humans and dwarves and that kind of thing. They've played around it, so you've got kind of Drakar and half-orcs and all that kind of stuff, which I think is really nice to see. And yeah, definitely watch the playthrough videos.
Playthroughs there.
Oh yes, yeah. So yeah, if you are on the fence about the game, those will certainly help you out, I think. So yeah, very nice. And it's an adventure board game without tons of plastic miniatures, which is amazing.
Who would have thought it was even possible these days?
Who would have thought?
Those little things are creepy. They should all be swatted like bugs.
Oh, they're adorable.
Nothing adorable
I'd have
about
one.
that. 100% creep. Right there. 18 days left for the Kinfire Chronicles as well. So if you want to have a creepy, hairy bug thing following you around all the time, then you can do that in this game.
It's me.
Right, folks, that wraps us up for another week. Don't forget, we will return for the XLBS on Sunday morning. Our Cult of Games members can take a look at what we're up to and see what hobby we do when we're not entertaining you guys.
Yeah.
Fantastic. If you're not already a cultist, you can join us for a 30-day free trial over on tabletop.com. And if you want a chance to win that Warhammer 40K Kill Team box, don't forget to get your comments in below.
Otherwise, send Lloyd all the creep, by the way. Just send him all the creep so he can get really annoyed. Yeah. So,
Just all the static crew. Take pictures of your static crew and hashtag and @Lloyd all over the place.
Yeah.
We shall be back for more of the same next week. And don't forget to keep your eye out for that interview with the guys from Free League. But until then, have a great week of gaming.
Go ahead and check out our other content on screen now. And while you're at it, why not hit subscribe and remember to ding our dong. Go on, you know you want to click it. Go on.